around after sideboard is 3 Unflinching Courage in the sideboard, so it's not just straight up over, but I would put the edge to Yiran Lin, especially probably going to be a 3-game match, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 games go here. Musser being on the draw does hurt for him, but he does have some solid life gain cards as long as he can get them online in time. He does have 2 copies of Whip of Erebos. You do mention that he does have Unflinching Courage after sideboard, so if he can get them online, he's looking pretty good. But if not, he's going to have a lot of difficulty winning, as Lin is off to a nice start with a turn 1 Rakdos Cackler. There is an untapped dual land in Overgrown Tomb, going to knock Musser down to 18 to be able to get some mana acceleration in the form of Elvish Mystic.
Only 2 shocks in Yiran Lin's deck list, so he could shock and lay a threat if he has a shock, but less likely than, for example, Owen's deck from the last week in Worcester, which had 4 shocks. See Ash Zealot in hand, another mountain, and then a couple of cards it's hard for me to make out.
Yeah, a couple mystery cards hanging out there right now. We'll see how he wants to progress the game, if he has a Burning Tree Emissary or anything like that. But Lin is going to start off with a Rakdos Cackler. He does have a Fire Drain Crusader over there. He also has a Magma Jet. So I think what we're going to see is Emissary into potentially a Jet to take care of the Elf. That's exactly what he's going to do, and that's a huge turn.
Absolutely. Stopping
the acceleration, getting to control his draw step, and adding to his board, all in that Burning Tree Emissary package is very, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, there is a reason that Dan Paskins, classic Red Mage of yore, had the game Kill the Elf. Killing a Llanowar Elf-style creature, a Bird of Paradise, in this case, Elvish Mystic, very important for a red deck, just to essentially play like a mini little tiny Time Walk.
You see Musser has drawn Voice of Resurgence for the turn, but he's got another dual land to play. And he says, he's frowning as he casts that Voice of Resurgence because he has to take 2 to do it and go down to 14. So each of his lands have dealt him 2 points of damage so far, playing right into the red deck's hands. As Lin's going to draw his card again, he did just finish scrying. He's going to play a mountain. We'll see how he wants to follow up this turn, because you see his hand right now. He's got Fanatic of Mogies, he has Ash Zealot, and he has a Fire Drinker in his hand. So we're looking at potentially a very big Fanatic if he does find a 4th land. Interesting how he wants to play this turn with the Ash Zealot. If he does choose to play the Ash Zealot, does he want to attack with everything? Just the Ash Zealot for the first strike damage? How does he want to go about doing it?
I mean, in my mind, I think that he can actually hold off a little bit. Ash Zealot, God, it's actually a tough call between Ash Zealot only or Ash Zealot and everybody. Their big reason is that the Fanatic of Mogies is worth some more damage if that Burning Tree Emissary survives. Now, remember, both of these players have had the opportunity to look at each other's deck list, so Dan Musser, I'm sure he would just straight up put his creature right in the way of that Burning Tree Emissary if it was coming in at all.
Yeah.
We see the Satyr join the party. Now we've got 8 power on Yiran Lin's side.
And more importantly, you take a look at the devotion count. If he were to play Fanatic, it'd be 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage. That would put Musser down to 5, and then he's being attacked by a lot of creatures as well. So Musser's in a lot of trouble. You see his draw step for the turn, a Temple of Silence. That's the white-black Scry land, which again, this is not a great card in this particular situation. His lands are either going to deal him damage or come in and play tapped, and this is the fear about playing its mono red. But one thing that I like is that this is what makes mono red good, is because it keeps these greedy 3-color decks in check.
Yeah.
If you try to play 3 colors with these 12 dual lands and you get some Scry lands in there as well, you can have draws where you just deal yourself a bunch of damage, your land's going to play tapped, and things just do not work the way you want to. I'm sure Musser would love to play Lockstone Smiter right now, but he might have to pay the toll to be able to do that.
Do you remember my article from 2 weeks ago about mana? We can see exactly what's happening here is the cost of that mana. Thank God for Dan having that forest. I mean, that gives him a lot of options, but it does mean he's going to be stopping himself from a 4-drop next turn. From a 4-drop next turn, unless he top decks another friendly basic land.
And take a look at Dan's mana base here. He does have 24 lands. Again, he does have the 12 dual lands in Temple Garden, Overgrown Tomb, and Godless Shrine. He also has 4 copies of Temple of Silence. He's going to play one of those so he can scry and take a look. But he has 5, 6, 7, 8 basics. 5 4s, 2 swamps, 1 plain. So his basic count is pretty heavy. But again, if you don't draw those or they don't line up correctly, it gets ugly for you. Now, he does have an Abrupt Decay in his hand that he can cast to take care of a guy here. There is the Mountain. Here is the Fanatic. Yeah, get that Ash Zealot out of here. So it's only going to be for 2, 3, 4, 5.
Only 5.
Only 5.
And at this point now, I just march in with everything.
Yeah, red zone.
Time. You've gotten your Fanatic of Mogies in. You'll deal 4 damage to him. That's just great.
Yeah, I mean, put him down to 3. Then if you draw Lightning Strike, your opponent dies. You draw another Fanatic, your opponent dies. Challenger's Phoenix becomes a fantastic draw because you start to go into the air. You just have to keep pressuring him. You can't slow down now. The longer the game goes, the more this plays into Musser's hands.
Dan Musser on the right with Junk. Yiran Lin on the left with Red. These two decks have battled through 406 other players. Well, since each of them is one of them, 405 other players. And are meeting now, trying to make it to tomorrow morning when we'll have our top 4 players.
So you see Yiran Lin really considering how he should go about attacking this turn. And again, I'm with you in which everything should get into the red zone. Again, he's not going to attack with anything. And the question you have to ask yourself is how is it going to get any better for you if you don't attack? What are you trying to accomplish by hanging back on defense? Now here comes the Loxodon Smiter. And additionally, you know, this gives Dan more defense. Now your attacks are worse. And it lets him play a tap land and pass the turn back. And yeah, if you draw a Fnatic or a Chandra's Phoenix, things are great. I think he just drew another Fnatic and Yogi's.
Did he just do it? Did he just...
Wow.
Wait a second. Did he
4,
jet and already know it was there?
No, we're past the scry there. So this is going to put Musser down to 1, and now he turns everything into the red zone. And Lin with a favorable top deck there is going to win the game. So Yiran Lin wins game number 1 over Dan Musser. Mono red up a game over Junk. The sideboards we are going to go over in just a minute.
Oh, wow.
We're going to bring it back to the booth here because it is trivia time.
That's right.
You guys have never played with us before. I'm going to explain the rules. Adrian's going to answer going to ask the question.
I will ask the question.
All right, so very quickly, what we want you guys to do is make sure that you are on the old Twitter sphere, because what's going to happen is this guy's going to ask you a question. You're going to hashtag your answer on Twitter with the hashtag of SCG Premium. We will select one winner from the people who do get it correct. So again, it is about accuracy, not speed, and we will announce the winner from the group of winners at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. But for now, Adrian's got a question for you guys.
That's right. So if you have been paying attention to our top 8, you already know the answer to this question. In fact, it was actually already mentioned in the lead-in to this top 8. What one color of Magic is not represented in our top 8? Every other color is represented. What one color is not? Is it white, black, blue, green, red?
You know the answer. Hashtag SCG Premium, and we will announce our winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. As we do take a look at the sideboards here, we're going to start with Dan Musser's because he is going to be on the play for game number 2.
I would like to just to clarify on our question.
Yes.
The specific thing about this. A better way to put it is what one color of Magic cannot be cast.
Sure.
Yeah, because I don't want anyone to say, oh, well, you know, there was that hybrid card in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Smart guy. We'll take a look here at Musser's sideboard. 3 Thoughtseize, 1 Doomblade, 2 Golgari Charms, 1 copy of Hero's Downfall to go along with the 2 in his main deck, 2 copies of Underworld Connections, a Sin Collector to go along with his 2 in his main deck, 3 Unflinching Courage, 2 Shadowborn Demon. You had already mentioned how Unflinching Courage is certainly going to come in. He's got 3 of those. Thoughtseize, clearly not for this matchup, more for your against your Sphinx's Revelation decks. A Doomblade, you know, you are probably going to want an additional removal spell. 2 copies of Golgari Charm. You take a look at the red deck, and what can that take care of with the -1/-1? It's got Fire Drain Crusader. He's got Firefish Striker. Outside of that, not really that good in this matchup, so those are probably going to stay on the bench. Additional Hero's Downfall. This one's kind of interesting because yes, it is a removal spell, but it's an expensive one, and if that last game is any indication of how 3 mana spells are in this matchup, even though Musser is on the play, not great. We move past their Underworld Connections. I don't think so. More for your mid-range mirrors. Sin Collector, kind of interesting. We'll come back to that one, as I do just want to say the Shadowborn Demon likely not to come in here just because it's too expensive. But Sin Collector, it's this card against Mono Red where it can 2-for-1 them. You can cast it and be able to get a card off of it. We're looking at a deck that does only have 8 spells in 4 Lightning Strike, 2 Magma Jet, and 2 Shock, but there's the opportunity for you to actually catch one of those cards and be able to block one of their creatures. And there's also the chance that Lin is going to sideboard into more spells.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I'm looking at, you can see the sideboard there displayed in front of us on the left for Yiran Lin, and what I see here is a classic too many cards to sideboard in situation.
Okay.
Where he has Burning Earth, which is very, very good in this matchup, Active Treason, which is also good against a deck that might drop a big monster. You've got Mizzium Mortars, which is really good against a deck that runs Loxodon Smiter. Those are the major cards that are the really solid cards to be playing. But the thing is, what's he going to take out? A lot of people would say, oh, take out that Fire Drinker Satyr. No, don't take out the Fire Drinker Satyr. Who cares if it can take 4 damage from a Loxodon Smiter? You care that it is a 2-power creature on turn 1. The cards that I'm not as excited about, the 2 Magma Jets are pretty expensive, but, you know, when I say expensive, it's compared to, say, a Mizzium Mortars, which can actually just kill a Smiter. Lightning Strike, It's a solid card. I mean, I feel like I would want to bring in the 3 Mizzium Mortars, the 2 Active Treason, and some number of Burning Earth. And the cards that I'm looking at that seem like they're the worst to me in this matchup, I mean, they're the burn spells that aren't shock. And I would keep in the shock to potentially kill an elf, and then drop the other 6. That's too many cards. Maybe just 1 or 2 Burning Earth, and well, yeah, I don't know. This is a rough one.
The issue is I don't love Burning Earth in the draw. You know, if he's on the play, I think it's perfectly reasonable to board that in. But when you're on the draw, you know, you've got a deck that can accelerate a little bit and then, you know, get a threat out there like Obsidian and then not have to cast any more spells for the rest of the game. So I think Burning Earth on the draw is just a little bit ambitious. I think he can board them on the play because there's obviously a big difference in this matchup being on the play and being on the draw. So I don't particularly love that card. But, I mean, the other options I think are actually pretty good, and I think those are options that we're going to see Lynn board in. And, again, I think it's even questionable to board in Burning Earth here at all because he's not like a Revelation deck. So we could certainly see a situation where Musser just plays a couple threats, casts an Unflinching Courage on a guy and says, this is too big to kill, and no more spells for me.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the logic that's being used, the board cards I would board in 3 Mizzium Mortars and 2 Active Treason, and I would get rid of 2 Magma Jet and 3 Lightning Strike.
Okay.
Now, one of, I think, the tricks that ends up happening a lot when people are playing red, they think about things the wrong way. They think about something like a Fire Drinker Satyr, and they say to themselves, oh, I can't afford to let that guy trade with a Smiter. And by trade, they mean, you know, pump up, pump up. They're going to take 2, they're going to take 4, that's 6 damage. Oh, man. But the real way to think about it is actually more like this. You are going to have a critical mass of cheap creatures that are very powerful, and by the time that guy is dying, your opponent is so close to dead, it doesn't matter that you take 6. It doesn't matter that you take 8, because they're basically dead. Now, if he's going to play against Dan Musser's possibility to bring in Golgari Charm, he could bring out the Satyrs if he thinks that that's a big deal, because it is one of yet another 1 toughness, but I personally like the Satyrs here.
Well, we'll see how Yiran Lin does decide to sideboard. Again, he is up a game over here against Dan Musser. Junk against Mono Red. Junk a deck that has not really established itself. You don't have Unburial Rights. You don't have Grizzly Salvage. You don't have Mulch. You don't have Brian Brown-Dwin over there casting those cards. We've got Dan Musser playing a new take on a Junk deck. He's still those colors, but the build is very much different. And Temple of Silence, a card that Junk did not have prior, does have now. So the deck has fantastic mana, but can it get it online? You see a mountain here and just passing the turn back. If you're Musser, that's a sigh of relief.
I saw look like several mountains in Yiran's hand.
He's definitely got a couple lands over. I think he's a Burning Tree Emissary hanging out, so he might have a Burning Tree Emissary draw. I think there's also a Shock over there, but it's not going to be able to take care of a Mystic yet. We'll see if Musser does have a Caryatid. He does not have anything, so he's just going to pass the turn back, maybe repping an Abrupt Decay. You see a Doomblade in his hand as well. So this is exactly how Musser wants the games to go, just kind of slow and plodding, and then he can take over things. Perfect Doomblade target here.
And the Ash Zealot comes on in and has its throat slit.
So that's going to go away now. It makes you back. It begs the question of, do you want to use Abrupt Decay there, or do you want to use Doomblade? As here's a Loxodon on Smite that comes into play for Musser. There are certainly gains and losses to each one of those cards. You know, one of them being that Doomblade can actually take care of Fnatic, where Abrupt Decay cannot. Not sure if that actually matters that much, but just one thing to keep in mind.
Okay, we can see a Reckoner in hand. So Reckoner, the most efficient use of mana here, and Reckoner by itself is able to trade with a Loxodon Smiter. The triggered ability of the Reckoner, you know, it doesn't kill the Smiter straight off, but then it can trigger and kill the Smiter afterwards. That's not a fun trade, but a little bit better is the first strike plus a shock can kill that Smiter.
So Lynn, considering his options this turn, he's already kind of underneath the gun here. Smiter has shown up, a Doomblade is taking care of the Ash Zealot. He needs to regain his footing again, because the one thing that his deck cannot do is it is not a deck that can switch roles. This is the aggressor in this matchup. He doesn't have cards like Stormbreath Dragon to be able to go over the top of the opponent by just clogging up the ground and going up to the skies. Doesn't have access to stuff like that, so he has to be the aggressor the entire time. Musser can play aggro when he's on the play and has to play defense on the draw. So Musser is going to be the aggressor in this game, and he's probably just want to bowl over Lynn. You see an Abrupt Decay, saying, I want to just push you over, get in for 4 damage, and let's do this again next turn.
Yeah. Yiran Lin looking for something. Now we can see how this looks like another Reckoner has appeared in his hand. We can see how this is not the path that he wants to be going down. He didn't play any 1-drops. There's a Burning Tree Emissary into Fire Fist Striker with a Satyr.
All right, so now he's going to have an active Fire for Striker, assuming that Musser does have nothing. So if that's the case, Musser's probably going to want to hang back. I mean, actually attack, not hang back, because he won't be able to block. But Musser drew a very nice card this turn in
Golgari Charm? Is that what he got?
Unflinching Courage. Try again.
Ooh, that's a rough one. And with only one red mana open, there's no fear that Yiran Lin would be able to do anything to stop it. There's no Dismember in the format anymore, so that's not a fear either.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for the red decks right now is that it's actually borderline impossible for them to deal with a 5 toughness threat. They're going to have to 2-for-1 themselves to be able to do that. But a lot of the time, if you are able to suit up an Unflinching Courage on a Smiter against red, they're pretty much drawing dead. You see, Musser is going to consider his options because he also has an Advent of the Worm. And I kind of like this too because now he's going to go on the ambush mode of attack you with this Smiter, pass the turn back. Yes, Lin knows that Musser has Advent of the Worm in his deck list because he has knowledge of the decks, but what can you do to play around it right now?
I mean, you just have to march on in, lose your striker. You can't sit back.
Yeah, I mean, he cannot play the defensive role in this matchup. He's not able to. You take a look at Lin's hand right now, he actually has a Lightning Strike and a Magma Jet in his hand, so that's actually pretty good for him that he does have that. The other thing too is if he's patient with those 2 burn spells, he can actually one-up that Unflinching Courage, so we'll see how he wants to play it on this turn, because this could get a little bit interesting.
If I'm Lin here, I imagine that there has to be an Ambush of the Worm there, and you know, I think you just march in and empty your burn spells onto the worm when it drops down.
Okay, and I think, you know, I don't disagree with you that that's certainly a good play in this situation. I think that plays exactly what Musser wants him to do, which is he uses 2 burn spells to take care of that Advent of the Worm that's so big, and then the coast is definitely clear to just suit up the Smiter with the Unflinching Courage. You see the trigger is going to resolve on that. That can't block. Musser makes sure that happens, and now here's an Advent of the Worm.
5/5. It's not white. It's just green.
Yep, and there's your 2 burn spells. He will get to scry 2, will Lin, but he has to use 2 cards to take care of 1, and you know, 2-for-1 exchanges here are exactly what Musser wants to see happen.
See an Ash Zealot, and I can't make out the other one. He's thinking about leaving them both on top, and he does.
All right, must be happy enough. Maybe one of them is a Fanatic Emojis. Who knows? Going to deal 2, 4, 6 points of damage over to Musser, put him to 14. We know Musser's going to be able to gain that life right back.
Yeah.
Because not only does he have an Unflinching Courage in his hand, he also has a Whip of Erebos. I think he just drew an Abrupt Decay or a Smiter.
Oh, this is a good game.
Yeah.
Boom, take 6. No way for Yiran Lin to kill that with his cards in hand.
And I like the way that Musser actually paced this game too, because he attacked twice with his Smiter from 20 to 16, 16 to 12. Courage makes it so it's a 2-turn clock. 12 to 6, 6 to 0.
And right now, Yiran Lin, one of his options is to hang back with his not Satyr and have a gang block try to stop that elephant, but the Abrupt Decay is going to make short work of that plan.
Yeah, and again, this plays in everything that Musser wants to have happen. If Lin has to use multiple cards to take care of 1 of Musser's or 2 of Musser's, that's great for Dan. That's exactly what he wants to have happen, because the red deck cannot win games that way.
And you see Yiran Lin here attacks for 4. It's a very bold attack, and he's got double Ash Zealot. So we're going to see a very sad Yiran Lin. No cards in hand, facing down Unflinching Courage on a big elephant, locks it on Smiter. That Abrupt Decay is just going to be insult to injury. And Dan is like, you know what? I can hang on and wait for your triple block.
Yeah, and that's the best part about this. Yeah, so he can wait for the triple block, kill one of the guys when the triple block does happen, get over a couple points of trample, take care of the other guys, and then he's so far ahead that there's probably no coming back. So in comes the Loxodon on Smiter. You know, this is a lethal attack, so Lin does have to do some amount of blocking. And it's just going to be a bad situation for him, however the blocks are done. If it's a single blocker, you know, let's say that Lin just throws a Burning Emissary in front of it, then you Abrupt Decay the guy, trample damage will happen, it'll be 6 trample damage. So all blocks here are bad for Lin. You see Golgari Charm there in Musser's hand as well, wondering if he was going to bring that in or not. Right now it would take care of 2 creatures, but I think more importantly too, for Musser, which is part of the reason he may have brought it in, is because of the regeneration as well. If Lin does try to like 2-for-1 himself, he can regenerate the guy. As we do have a quick update you want to tell us about?
Wow, that is Chris Renner. Stompy crushes the #1 seed, Black-White Control.
You thought that's what was going to happen. You thought that Renner with mono green was going to win, and he won a lot faster than I thought he would. So Chris Renner, mono green, a deck that we saw much earlier from Dan Novak. We did a deck tech with him as well, is into the
Golgari
semifinals.
Charm. Golgari Charm clears the entire table.
No, it's Abrupt Decay is what clears that, not Golgari Charm.
Why not? Oh, I thought he was going to cast Golgari Charm because that would have cleared the entire table too.
Oh, that's true, actually. Give everything -1, -1. Yeah.
I saw him move it to the front and then he moved it back.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like not casting Golgari Charm there because you don't give the information that you sideboarded it in.
That's fair. That's fair.
I actually like that quite a bit about that play there.
You don't need to, I guess, say, see how much I've got? It's so awesome. Back to the sideboards. Yiran Lin looking through his deck, looking through the deck list you saw the judge just handed over there.
You see Musser's he's already going back to shuffling. He's happy with his configuration, where Lin is a little bit unsure of himself. But again, we did mention how he could sideboard in Burning Earth on the play as opposed to it being on the draw. But we talked about Golgari Charm maybe coming in, maybe not from Musser's, and obviously he has sideboarded in and he's going back to shuffling and not giving away any information from casting in game 2. Part of the reason he may have boarded in as well is because, again, he does know that Lin does have access to Burning Earth. So, you know, maybe just a little hedge against that card. Again, I don't think the Golgari Charm is great in this matchup. It's not bad, but it's not, you know, exquisite. But the fact that it is flexible and lets him hedge against Burning Earth, I think could warrant a spot.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ways that perhaps, you know, he has that Golgari Charm there to respond to the fear of a Burning Earth. And, you know, because it does have lots of applications in the potential 75 that Yiran Lin has here.
So Lin puts the sideboard back in the box. He's going to go back to shuffling again. As we do get our game results and our match results, we will certainly be filling you guys in. We'll also be announcing the winner of our 3-month premium giveaway at the conclusion of our quarterfinals. But we do know at least one person's moving on in Chris Renner, and he'll be playing the winner of the green-white mirror match between Eric Finnegan and Ryan Gerhardt. So
I'm
Fenner
really
eagerly awaiting.
I'm really curious which one of those two is going to win.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Do you have a one that you prefer?
I mean, we'll see what happens. You know, there are some tools in there for the mid-range matchup, but, you know, one thing that has not been tested is just the green-white mirror. No real idea how that ends up playing out. I know Tristani is very important in it, Archangel being very, very good as well. But, you know, Archangel can grow to such a size that it does get hit by Selesnya Charm, so it can be a game-winning effect, but it can be killed too.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Cedric Phillips. This is the StarCityGames.com Open Series, and right now we are in Cleveland. We're bringing you the Standard Open. It is day 1. We're in the top 8. 4 players will move on to the morning, where at 8 a.m. we'll be seeing their faces, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and ready to try to win a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, again, Chris Renner already on to the semifinals. We'll see who else is going to be coming back with him bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. where, again, we'll be giving away our 6 months and 12 months of premium. Don't want to jump too far ahead, but we also have a legacy tournament tomorrow, too. It's been a couple weeks since we've seen Fetchlands and friends come bust out here, so interested to see how many people are going to show up for that tournament tomorrow. We had a healthy 406 players here today. So, Cleveland, proud of you guys representing for me. Bringing out just enough people. You know, 406 leaves us just four people underneath the 10-round cutoff. So that means we actually get to get some dinner tonight.
Right.
Get a couple more hours of sleep potentially. So good on you, Cleveland.
I'm down with that.
Absolutely.
You know, I actually remember being at an event and that last person came and moved us from an 8-round to a 9-round.
That's right.
And literally, people in the room went like, no!
Yeah. Boo! Yeah. We would have had to have 4 people show up, so we made it just
one car.
Yeah.
One car.
Yeah, just one more car. Can we play? We're almost there. We're so close.
Oh, man. Yiran Lin here on the play. Dan Musser. This junk list, I have to say, I do like it a lot. One of the things I like about it, I like how old school it is. Like, this is a list off of my own heart, you know, and the junk lists that I've seen more recently, they're called junk because of the green, white, black color combinations, but the way that they look to me, they look a lot more like rock decks. The decks that we've been used to. I believe BBD has been somebody that's been playing some junk not so long, or was it Chris Van Meter?
Well, I mean, they both play Junk Reanimator a lot.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's true. That's true. They both have.
Van Meter winning an open series in Somerset with that deck in Standard. BBD winning a PTQ. He's
That's
actually
it.
qualified for Pro Tour Dublin that way, but also just a lot of impressive finishes with that deck over the past couple of months. Those guys were big junk aficionados.
Yeah, I mean, I like those decks a lot, and I like those guys a lot, but man, it's not my kind of junk. I like the kind of junk that turns sideways, and that's what Dan Musser has here.
Yeah, I mean, a much more aggressive build. He does have acceleration with Elvis Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid, so he's not hyper aggressive or anything like that, but his creatures are big, they're efficient, and they can close out games pretty quickly, and he does have a lot of spot removal as well. And a unique card there, again, with Whip of Erebos, a card that's beginning to establish itself in the metagame as an actual, real player here, and potentially the best one of the God's weapons that are going to see play.
I think that it probably is.
Looks like a one-lander there over for Yiran. See a Burning Tree Emissary, you see a Mortars, he's got a Fire Drink Crusader over there as well. Is he willing to gamble and keep that one-lander?
I think he kept it. I see a Satyr Cackler, so he's got I got to play on turn 1 and a play on turn 2, and if I draw that land, I mean, he's got 19 other land that can cast his Burning Tree Emissary, and then 1 Mutavault.
Quick update for you guys. I'll let you announce it.
Stompy beat Stompy.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Now, for those of you who are Cedric fans, you will be sad to hear that Eric Finnegan, playing the other Stompy deck, not the one that was designed by Cedric, has moved on, winning 2-0 versus Ryan Gerhardt with the white-green aggro list.
Good run for Ryan. Happy for him. But does get defeated by another green-white aggro deck. So we're going to see Chris Renner play against Eric Finnegan tomorrow. Mono Green playing against green-white on one side of the bracket. We've got Dan Musser and Yiran Lin on the other side here. They're waiting to see who wins the match between Heen Win and Ian Barton. You got red, white, black mid-range over there against Damri Naya. If you were joining us during round number 8 of coverage when Glenn Jones and I were here in the booth, we saw Heen Win defeat another Damri Naya deck. So he's comfortable in that position. We'll see if he can do it again. You're going to see Yiran, he is going to take at least 1 mulligan here. We weren't sure if he was going to keep the one-lander or not, but he opts to take a mulligan and go down to at least 6 cards.
I appreciate that mulligan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risky keep, and he's got 21 lands in his deck. He'd be drawing to 20. If he does draw, he does have the 1 Mutavault, which kind of makes things a little bit interesting too. Because if he draws the Mutavault for a second land, it makes things super awkward. Like he can cast the Mortars, but he can't cast the Burning Tree Emissary. But Burning Tree Emissary gets worse as the game goes. So you want to be able to spike that mountain, so you can go Emissary plus Mortars your guy and just keep the pressure on.
Now, a lot of people said that Mizium Mortars should have been added to Philip's deck list from last week, but I think they meant on top of the 21 mountains, not instead of any of the mountains.
Yeah. So,
I certainly wouldn't want to cut a mountain from that. Yiran Lin, though, he is the 2nd seed, so he has risen right up to the top.
Yeah, I mean, really good turn for him. Looks like it's probably like an XO2 for him. Potentially just an X1 as well. Let's take a look at this one. I think this is another 1 mountain
land?
here.
Oh, no.
I think there's 2 hiding out in there.
He keeps, and there's a Satyr to start.
You see there's a Burning Tree Emissary. I think there's a Firefish Striker and a Lightning Strike. That's actually a really, really good mulligan here. We'll see if Musser has the same issues.
Ooh.
He's actually going to start off this time with a basic instead of we saw game 1 with an Overgrown Tomb. So staying at 20, important.
I think if I were him, Yiran Lin, I would go Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Strike. I do believe I see a Lightning Strike.
Yeah, he's got a Strike, a Firefish, he's got a Lightning Strike, a Firefish Striker, a Mountain, and Burning Tree Emissary. And I think I agree with you, which I want to do this. I want to kill your mana accelerant, because if a Loxodon Smiter shows up, and no attack either, I would love to trade resources there. If a Loxodon Smiter shows up, I'm not happy about it. It looks like he dodges that bullet.
But we're going to see a Sylvan Caryatid.
One thing that you cannot Firefish Striker because of Hexproof.
Yeah, I don't like that last line there from Yiran. One of the things is the kill an elf. Kill an elf. Listen to the wisdom of old. It's still true.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If he does play Burning Tree Emissary and then kills the elf, Sylvan Caryatid probably doesn't even show up this turn because of the temple. So he's a full turn behind is Musser, and you want to put Musser in situations where those lands come into play, either haunt him, or you want to put him in a situation where him having to pay 2 life for his Ravnica dual lands hurts him. I don't think that Lin was able to put him in either one of those situations, which Musser has to be absolutely thrilled about.
Yeah, like right now, Dan Musser could drop an Obzidot No, that's not true. He's got 2 green sources only, so it couldn't be an Obsidian. But he could drop a 4-drop, or he could drop, let's see, an Advent of the Worm could come down right now.
Yeah, he does have an Advent in his hand right now, so he looks like he's just going to play this land tapped and pass the turn back. And Advent of the Worm could show up here. We'll see if Lightning Strike's going to get cast. It doesn't look like it's going to, targeting that Elvish Mystic. So Yiran is probably going to run into something ugly here, and he does draw a Chandra's Phoenix, so he might just play that and attack with everybody. And if that's the case, I think if you're Musser, you're pretty happy. Yep.
Yeah, you're in a world of hurt. If that burning, sorry, if that Satyr gets blocked by a big 5/5, that Worm is going to make a clock that is so crazy huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe is there a whip in hand too?
Yeah, there's a whip in there.
Oh my god. Yeah, things are looking very good for Dan Musser.
Yeah, and this is just getting, it gets ugly here for Lynn because now he has to make the decision of how do I want to attack, because he hasn't established that he's going to be hyper-aggressive. By not being hyper-aggressive, you've given Musser enough time to actually make decisions on what he wants to do. Now everyone's going to come in sideways. Mystic's not able to block through the Firefish Striker trigger, so here comes the Advent of the Worm, big 5/5, and as you mentioned, he can block the Fire Drinker Satyr, deal 5 over to Lynn, and now turn the race back in his favor due to the whip. So Musser's going to take 6, but Lynn's going to take 5. And because of the whip in Musser's hand, he's going to turn things around in his favor in a big, big way. You see him quickly untap. I've never... Dan is like kind of deliberate. He doesn't play slow. He's kind of deliberate. I haven't seen him untap that fast all day, and we've had him on camera multiple times.
And on this coming turn, that whip is going to be so nuts. There it is. Here's the whip in for 5. Let's switch our life totals. 15-10? No.
Yeah.
10-15. How about that?
And again, the whip is such a good card in this matchup. Lifelink is obviously very good against red, but if you can't establish it at the correct time, it's not actually that good. You see he's able to establish it now and actually have it be very, very good because he's attacking with a huge creature, and now for Lynn, he has to keep attacking, and the attacks now just aren't very good. Mutavault's going to get fired up here. Everybody's going to come into the red zone, so you've got the Firefish Striker trigger that, you know, it can't really target anything of relevance. Caryatid's going to be able to block. 6 damage is going to come through, put Musser back down to 9, but Advent's going to be able to just keep gaining life. And we know Lynn's last card in his hand is an Advent of the Worm, as we do have a quick, or excuse me, his last card is a Lightning Strike, as we have a quick update for you guys.
Yeah, that's Barton. We have Ian Barton with Domri Naya defeats Hien Wen 2-1. That means Naya has defeated red, white, black mid-range control.
And Naya will be playing the winner of this match, and it looks like he's going to be playing against Dan Musser here as he attacks, puts Lynn down to 5, plays a Loxodon Smiter. And it looks like he may pass the turn back. If you caught a glimpse of his hand, he does have a Golgari Charm hanging out over there as well, which is actually pretty good in this situation, but it's the whip that's getting the job done in this game.
That whip has done so much to change the way that this game was turning. Now, I still look back to turn 2. I think turn 2 was the key turn of this for Yiran Lin. If he had killed the Elvish Mystic, we wouldn't have seen a turn 2 Sylvan Caryatid, and there would be so much time that would have been bought by that single lightning strike that right now is just sitting in his hand doing pretty much nothing.
Hey, you end up looking at a wildly different game here. Now, Active Treason with the draw here for Lynn. So taking a look at Active Treason on this board, what can it do to win Lynn the game? He could take the Advent of the Worm, attack, fire up the Mutavault, attack with all of his creatures, make it so that Smiter can't block. But that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's not going to be lethal. He could... You know, what can he take? Is there anything that he can do to actually get things over with here? Musser being at 14, having so many creatures in play, one of them having hexproof, it's just going to make things, I think, too difficult. Natural Treason's not actually going to be an out in this situation.
I think the only thing that Yiran Lin can do is Active Treason the Worm, attack, trigger the Firefist Striker on the Loxodon Smiter, and just hope that it goes okay. Hope that somehow... What did he take there?
He's going to target the Smiter.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like what he's going to do. He's going to take the Smiter, attack with everybody, make it so the Mystic can't block. But even if everything were to come through here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the Lightning Strike in his hand equals... That makes it
not
13
enough
damage.
on the table.
And Caryatid, that's not even accounting for Caryatid blocking something, because that's going to get to do that because it has hexproof. There's no stopping the Caryatid.
Yeah, I would have liked to have taken the Worm there.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, you know, Active Treason Active Treason plus Lightning Strike plus what's on the board is just never going to get the job done.
Oh, I'm sure that it wasn't going to, but I think it opens up the possibility for Dan Musser to make a mistake.
Sure.
And I don't think Dan's going to make that mistake, but it opens up that small possibility.
Yeah, you'd like to at least make it so that you can somehow Musser can make a mistake and get yourself back into the game. But overall, I'm with you. The turn 2 play of Burning Tree Emissary into Firefish Striker as opposed to Lightning Strike killing your Elvish Mystic is a wildly different game, and it's very surprising that we don't see him do that this game, where we saw him do it in game 1, where he played a Burning Tree Emissary into Magma Jet your guy to take care of the Mystic, and then the game looks wildly different. Here's Golgari Charm. I'm going to give everything -1/-1. So Firefish Striker going to die, Elvish Mystic going to die, things are going to get a little bit smaller, Musser going to take less damage, and we'll probably see him untap and attack for the final few points of damage.
That looks like it's going to be it to me. Now, yeah, that looks to be it. And if you're Yiran Lin and you end up watching, and insult to injury.
Yeah.
if you're Yiran Lin and you end up watching the replay on this, you'll probably be ending up looking at that moment in turn 2 of game 3 and wondering if it could have gone differently.
Yeah.